Last week, we launched a new series entitled the Will Series, in an effort to really lift up the spiritual power, the spiritual faculty for the month of August. And all of those of you who are born in the month of August, you are our will beings. You have come to help will us into a better world. Yes, you have. And we acknowledge a disciple that corresponds with this will faculty, and that's the disciple Matthew. The color that corresponds with divine will is silver or gray, so we wear or carry something silver or gray with us all month to remind us that there is a power. There is a power that is working right now within your soul, friends. Listen closely. Listen closely, because there's more truth caught than taught. I want you to catch it this morning. If you catch the truth that you catch will set you free today. There's a power at work within your soul. And this power is working to will and to do what your soul's highest purpose and plan is to bring forth into expression at this time, in this body, in this expression, in this lifetime on the earth. This power has been identified as divine will. Today we'll continue with part 2 of the series, the will to transmit. The will to transmit. And as we look at this spiritual power, the spiritual faculty, we are mindful that when Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, wrote this book, The 12 Powers of Man, he had tapped into that hidden mystery that Paul talked about. I know I'm really straying right now. There's a passage from the letters of Paul. Paul said that he went one day while he was in meditation, he went to a different plane. He went to what he called the third heaven. And in that third heaven, behind the veil, in this new realm, he got to see truth as it really is. Not this illusion that we identify or think is really the reality, but he got to see the truth. And he said from that space and place that he saw some things and heard some things that were inexplainable. He got in the truth of himself. When Charles wrote this book, The 12 Powers of Man, The 12 Powers of Mind, and when Myrtle Fillmore wrote her letters, the healing letters from Myrtle Fillmore and all of the material, they based their teachings on the life and on the teachings of the master teacher, Jesus Christ. Even the whole Unity movement was founded on the life and teachings of Jesus Christ as depicted. You would call this a what? This is really an anthology. You haven't read the Bible. Uh-oh. I want to drop something on you. I'm telling you, just catch it. Catch what you can catch. This is an anthology. It's a compilation of many books that were written and compiled over a period of 1,600 years. By more than 40 authors from over three different continents in a period in over 3 different languages compiled. Now, what are the chances? Friends, see, if I was to whisper something in your ear, and by the time it goes all the way around the room and get to Ralph, what are the chances that the word that I gave you might be slightly altered? Huh? I mean, come on, talk to me. I know. In Unity, although Myrtle and Charles founded their principles, they tapped into that hidden knowledge. And I was told years ago, Jack, especially all of those, and this is it can happen if you're in a couple. If you are single, raise your hand if you are a single individual. I'm about to give you something, and this is hot off the press. I was told years ago, Jack, in your singleness, if you can optimize this on this moment, you can use your attention and focus it on your spiritual growth and evolution with no distraction, and you can tap into that hidden realm. You can get behind the veil, and you can bring forth the wisdom of heaven here on. Ooh, that's some hot stuff. You can bring heaven and earth together in the here and now, as Wayne Dyer says. Because in that singleness, we're single, but we're yet whole in our singleness. I'm a whole individual still loving life in my singleness. And if you are a couple, that's all right too. You can still do it. You can tap into it. When Myrtle and Charles began to write these teachings, they looked at this anthology and they looked at the teachings in the life of Jesus Christ. Now, this is more than, and I know this might be a revolutionary to some. This is a revolutionary idea for many, and it might even be blasphemous to some. This is more than a historical or theological compilation. Oh, no. This is not just history. This is the mystery. You see, in this anthology, I will find all that I need to know about the truth of Jack Bomar as a spiritual being. From Genesis to Revelation, the anthology helps us to understand the development and the unfoldment of the soul nature of every man from beginning to end. Now, for many individuals, there's a slight resistance to the anthology because of how the anthology was used and misused to to marginalize and oppress and disenfranchise and to have people feeling like they are less than and they can't do this and they can't do that. You can't go there. You can't have that. You can't achieve that. That is the misuse of the anthology. But when we write rightly, as Paul told Timothy, you got to rightly divide the word of truth. And when it's rightly divided, it ministers to the soul and it becomes the truth that sets the captives free. It's the truth that will open blinded eyes. It's the truth that will make the deaf to hear. It's the truth that will enable us to stand as great spiritual beings and transmit the truths of God all over the world. Now, well, Jack, what are you really saying in all of this? Every character, every geographical location, every city, every stream, every mountain, every river, every event in biblical literature represents, oh no, we don't interpret this literally, it represents a phase of mind within the soul. We don't interpret this, as I said it before, if you interpret this anthology literally, my God, you will be in a fix, a real big fix. You cannot interpret it literally. You have to interpret it metaphysically or esoterically and find yourself in it and find it in you. And when you realize that this is my story, I'm reading about, oh, you want me to tell you what's coming in your life? Who would like for me to tell you what's coming? You become the living word. You become the word that has become flesh. You become the Bible. You become the word of truth. Every person, every event, every situation represents a phase of mind. When we read about Jesus and his disciples, we're not talking about a theological, historical figure. Please get that out of your mind. What we are talking about is the mastermind, the God-conscious mind in man that knows its relationship with source. When you become aware, even conscious, that there is a power and a presence greater than yourself, greater than your human self, but it is in essentially who and what you are in your essential nature. When we become aware that there is a force and activity, who believes that there is an energy at work in the universe? Who believes it? Who believes that this same energy that is at work in the universe is working in your life right now? Friends, if you believe it, that is the Jesus Christ in you. Not a historical figure. It is the God-conscious mind in man that knows that, as David says, I can walk through the valleys of the shadow of death and I won't fear anything because I know thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Now keep me. Matthew, the 8th disciple of Jesus, represents divine will. It is that part of us that's always at work, that's willing to do and willing to bring forth the highest expression of life in our world and affairs. And if we spiritualize Matthew, divine will, the ability to bring forth the gifts of God in our life, if we spiritualize Matthew, Matthew will work for us. But if we don't spiritualize Matthew, Matthew is a rascal. Oh, yes, he is. And I want you to know that you have a Matthew inside of you. I have a question. that I want you to ask yourself. Have you spiritualized your Matthew? Or is your Matthew still a rascal? You see, Matthew was known as a tax collector, and he did not have a good reputation. Unlike our accountants and CPAs today, we have some really wonderful accountants and CPAs. Thank God for that. They're looking after the well-being of this spiritual community. Thank God for Spencer. Matthew was a tax collector. And metaphysically, Matthew represents the phase of mind, that carnal mind that is always trying to manipulate something or someone to get what they want. Uh-oh, I'll ask you again. How many of you have spiritualized your Matthew? It's the phase of mind that feels that we have to cheat, steal, lie, connive, fib. Let's use fib. Manipulate, dominate, or control to get any manner of good. That is the unspiritualized Matthew. And we can see that unspiritualized Matthew at work in our world, can you not? The master teacher in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 9, verse 9, I'm telling you how to spiritualize your Matthew, and not only Matthew, but all of your disciples. It says that as he went from there, the master teacher saw a man named Matthew and says, "Hey, you, Matthew, come follow me. Leave what you're doing. Leave where you are. Come follow me." Friends, the way that we spiritualize those 12 powers in the soul, we have to give them direction. If not, they are so conforming to the world systems and to the images and the ideas of the outer material world. And we cannot put, what's that saying? You cannot put new wine into old wineskins because that skin cannot hold. We cannot put the truth of our being into an old, worn out concept of who we're supposed to be or who we're supposed to be showing up. I don't know if that made sense. For instance, right before I moved here, I shared with the other two services. I went to my eye doctor, and just went to have things checked up. Now I'm seeing just fine, and I was there, and he asked me to read the lines, and I read them all. I read even that very, that really fine print, 2020. He says, "What's the last line you can see?" I'm like, 2020. He says, "Oh." He says, "Well, you should really prepare yourself, because in another 6 months, you're going to need reading glasses." I'm like, "Why would you say that?" He says, "Because it's just fact." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, you will in about another 6 months, you're going to need reading glasses." I'm like, "Well, why would you say that?" He says, "Because of your age." I'm like, "What are you talking about, my age? I'm just in my 40s. He says, "Because of your age, you're going to need." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, what age are you?" And he says, "I'm not quite your age yet." I'm like, "Well, you need to respect your elder." I'm like, "Well, why would you tell me that?" He says, "Because it's just fact. When you get certain age, your body begins to do this and that, and then it starts, your eyes begin to change, and this starts happening." I'm like, "But who told you that? Who told you that would be my truth?" "Doctor, no respect, but I give that back to you. That is not my truth. I cannot receive that. My eyes are fine. I see with the eyes of God, and my vision is clear. I got 20/20. My vision, I'm focused on God, and God is focused in me. I cannot receive that." Friends, if your disciples are not spiritualized, you will accept anything that the world gives you. And that anything becomes the thing showing up in your life, wearing you out. If it's in your life, and evidently at some level of consciousness, you accepted it, but it doesn't have to stay. That's the good news today. If it's there and you don't want it, say, "I make up my mind right now that this is no longer a part of I don't care what it is. Cancer, disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, rheumatism, growth of any kind, ailments." There's no arthritis, it's arthrongus. There's nothing right about Arthur. You can make up your mind right now and put put your powers to work. As Paul told Timothy, stir up the gifts of God that is within you and put them to work and let them work for you to bring forth a different experience. See, this is some tight stuff. This is not for the wimps of life. You can't be wimpy trying to stand on these truths. You got to know what you know, because you will be tested on it. Oh yeah, you will. You will be tested on your truth. No testing, no blessings. You will be tested on your truth. And it's not that God tests you. You set up the test for yourself to make sure that what you are espousing is really the word of truth. This is how we rightly divide the word of truth. Sacred text says, there are those who have a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. It also says that there is a path that seems right to man, but it leads to destruction. That is a path of ignorance within the soul. But when we come back to our first love, and that's what we got to do, we got to come back to the first love. And the first love is that I am made in the image of God and in the likeness of God. And there is no separation. We got to put on the mind that Ernest Holmes talked about in the Science of Mind, the divine mind. And that's the mind that Paul talked about. Let this mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus, that thought it not robbery to be one with God. It's a heavy word. But friends, this is the word that will set you free. The will to transmit is the will to convey, to pass on a new idea. And that's what we really need today. We need a new thought, don't we? And we need to pass on a new thought in our world. Convey the true idea. The idea that God's will for you is absolute good. God's will is total good. God's will for you is perfect good. God's will for you is extraordinary good. You can pass this on and get it in your own soul. Sweep around your own front door first. Get it in your own soul first. And then be a witness. Be a witness to this power. When people ask you, are you this or are you that? You can say, if it's true of God, it's true of me. Can you do this? Can you do that? If it's true of God, it is true of me. Convey a new idea. Let your Matthew work for you, and you will see that things would really become beautiful in your life. God bless you. Thank you.